Hello.
I guess we're live. Okay. Hi, everybody. It's good to be with you again. And it's nice to see our friend Tambray back. We're missing Carmen and a couple of others, but we're glad for those of you who have chosen to join us to be here. And we welcome your questions. So today, Erin and I are on together. She, of course, from, I think, a coffee shop, maybe Kookaburra. Yep,
Yep.
down in St. Augustine, Florida. And I'm here at my home in Virginia with now 3 dogs. Not just one, not even 2, but 3, and 2 cats. Let's hope they don't cause a ruckus today. We've had a very busy week around here, and that did include Erin, as one of our sons was married last Friday. We had a wonderful celebration, a beautiful wedding, and we've just had a wonderful time being together. It's been crazy. I'm not at all recovered yet. The house is a mess, and I'm very behind on work. Erin, however, managed to go home, get sick,
I got sick.
pass an exam in spite of that. Yeah. Yes, if you don't know, Erin is studying with the Nutritional Therapy Association to be an NTA practitioner. And so yesterday's exam was important. And thankfully, she passed that. I wouldn't expect her to do anything less than pass with flying colors anyway, after a big trip and while being sick. I'm very proud of you, Erin, and I'm so pleased for what you're doing. So, yep. So we'll have somebody with letters behind their name soon. My letters are MOM and MRS. Those are my credentials currently. But we're really happy for Erin to be pursuing a couple of very important certifications. But for today, we do have some saved up from others, and we're ready to roll. But if you have any questions at all that you'd like us to answer that we don't already have on our list, please do send them in right now, and we'll at least make a valiant attempt to provide a good answer. So with all of that aside, again, we thank you for watching. And Erin, you want to get started with questions?
All right. Well, first, Amber's is asking about Mimi's dancing juice.
Who's asking about that? Tambray or somebody else?
Tambray, yeah. Well, I can tell you what's in that because I helped make
I don't
it.
really know. I know grapefruit juice, which I enjoy.
Yeah, we had fresh grapefruits and fresh basil and a little bit of soda water and then a little bit of vodka and just like a nice, refreshing little summer drink that we got to toast Mom for her birthday too. So
it was really, the whole thing was enjoyable. But Mimi's dancing juice, I am guessing that the reason for the name is because I danced until I developed massive, horrible blisters on my feet. I'm not wearing any kind of closed shoes for probably another week while my heels heal. But I did enjoy dancing along with the grandchildren and others who attended the wedding. And I will say this, while we never condone drunkenness or heavy drinking or anything like that, our family does enjoy a little something from time to time, but never, ever anything even close to resembling drunkenness, because we do think that that's actually quite wrong. So Mimi's dancing juice had a little bit of something extra in it, and it was really, really delicious. So thank you for asking. I put up a video and several pictures from a celebration that the children gave me on Saturday for my birthday, and I was completely, totally caught by surprise until I rounded the last tree on my little walk down the street. And
Mom's face instantly went from walking down the road to come over to ugly cry.
Yeah, I don't cry pretty for sure, but I don't care. I'll say this: I struggled my whole life with feeling like I was good enough or worth it or worthy of love. My family and my friends have definitely made me feel very loved, and I no longer struggle with those questions. And I thank you, Aaron, and all of my family, and all of you who wish me birthday wishes. I definitely feel loved, and I definitely enjoyed not only the wedding, but definitely my birthday party as well. We weren't able to get together for my 60th birthday. So this was my last day of being 60 before I turned 61, and it was really wonderful. Good food, too. Man, I'm glad that my family has a love of good food and desire to know how to make good food. So we had really wonderful pot roast, mashed potatoes, and Aaron, I did not get your broccoli, the roasted broccoli, because it was gone.
it's all gone.
Yeah, but bruschetta, it was delicious. And we also enjoyed a little bit of the leftover wedding cake, which our daughter Claire made, and cousin Samay helped to decorate. It was an old family recipe, and it's all good. I even ate a piece of cake, and I don't eat cake, so it's that good.
Mm-hmm. I ate two, and I don't eat cake. I ate 2 pieces.
Well, your father ate some at the wedding also, and the next day he paid for it, but he's still happy he got it.
I know
So
my
that-
arthritis and my knee acting up after this weekend because I did indulge in some bread and cake and things. And
Yeah. I think we all, or those of us who avoid some foods for various reasons, give ourselves permission to just enjoy anything that we wanted. And that included these days juice. So that was fun. Okay, so that answers the first question, I guess. Mimi's dancing juice. Yeah.
All right, so we had a couple of questions from people come in, and so one of them is it okay to consume egg white without the egg yolk? And why would you use the whole egg instead of just the egg yolk when you're making mayonnaise and salad dressings where like it would be raw?
This is a question that pops up from time to time. Anyone who follows in particular the teaching and the principles of the Weston A. Price Foundation will have a question about whether or not it's okay to use whole raw egg or the egg white in a salad dressing or mayonnaise. And I always do, I'll just say that. But the reason that there is any question at all about egg white, first, let me talk about egg white and egg yolk and remind everyone how God gives us a package. All the nutrients are in a package. Every part, every component accentuates and works synergistically with all the rest. So you don't need to isolate. Really. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy something food cake that's just made with egg whites on occasion. But there is a larger question surrounding certain, well, we'll just call them anti-nutrients. If we're talking about nuts, seeds, grains, all of those are actually seeds. We can lump them into one category. All seeds are endowed with certain protective factors that protect them from sprouting out of season or in the wrong environment. Well, an egg, whether human or otherwise, is basically a seed, which also contains anti-nutrients, not necessarily to stop a chicken from hatching at the wrong time of the year, for instance, but there are certain inhibitors which are found within the egg white, which inhibit protein metabolism and protein absorption. So if we're looking at the egg, and specifically these anti-nutrients, these protease inhibitors and such, we can make, I think, a logical comparison between an egg and a seed and say that if you have, for instance, a grain of wheat and you soak or sprout that or ferment that seed, the anti-nutrients are neutralized so that the seed can grow. I believe, I don't have any studies to show this because as far as I can find, there are none, but it makes perfect logical sense to me that if the same thing that inhibits a seed in the plant kingdom from sprouting and is destructive to the human gut, that an egg being a seed, that logic follows that once that egg is fertilized, those anti-nutrients would be neutralized. Does that make sense to you, Erin? Are you following?
But yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, in order for an egg to develop into a chicken, the protein has to be able to be utilized or metabolized so that the protein can increase and build a little peep. So that protein is then usable. And our bodies, I think that means that it's not only usable, but that it makes the protein bioavailable. The inhibitor then ceases to inhibit and becomes actually sort of energizing. So the question of whether or not it is okay to consume raw egg whites in particular, I think it's a moot point. The egg has been fertilized. This is the main reason why I keep a rooster in my small flock of chickens. I do want to be able to reproduce chickens if or when needed. So that's another reason to have a rooster. But the main reason why I keep a rooster in my flock, and the people from whom I buy my additional eggs also keep roosters, is that we can be able to adequately utilize the protein in the egg white even when raw. And then that separate question that I already touched on is, God put it together in a package. So we really generally do want the egg white with the egg yolk so that we can utilize all of the nutrients together. But also in talking about making things like salad dressing and mayonnaise, the egg white contains lecithin, a fair amount of lecithin. That lecithin acts as an emulsifier to emulsify the water-based component with the oil-based component. So my mayonnaise, I use olive oil. Sometimes I throw something else in, like bacon fat. I made salad dressing last weekend with bacon fat. But the fat does not mix naturally with the water. Once you include an egg white, or whole egg as I do, then that lecithin within the egg white emulsifies the water base with the oil base, the olive oil with the lemon juice or the vinegar or the brine from a ferment. So they work together that way as well. Mm-hmm. How's that for an answer? Is that complete?
So, okay, wait. So Tambray is saying, so will keeping a rooster ensure that all of the eggs you gather each day are fertilized?
If you have an active rooster, and if you have an active rooster and not too many hens, then I can't guarantee that every single egg is going to be fertilized, but I watched my roosters over the years, and they're hitting up those hens. Every day they're producing more eggs, and every day that rooster is providing the fertility for those eggs to develop into chickens. And so the only real way to know for certain that every single egg is fertilized is to candle it, to hold it up with a light and look for that little tiny bit of new life forming inside the egg. But I think that we can be assured that at least the majority of the eggs are fertilized when you have the proper ratio of roosters to hens. And for me, that means about 6 to 8 hens for every rooster, although you can have as many as 10 or 12. I think that it's probably it's more probable that eggs with a fewer number of hens, and you certainly don't want to have one rooster with too few hens, or those hens will be pretty unhappy and beat up. So I think that if you're making, say, mayonnaise and you're using 2 whole eggs, and probably going to be fertile and you won't have to worry. But if you get 5 out of 6 and 1 isn't fertile, I don't think it's going to be problematic. So,
yeah. So she says our plan for less than a dozen total should be good.
Yeah, I think so.
Carmen, I boiled eggs this morning too.
I saw that someone this morning on a forum on a Weston A. Price Foundation members Facebook page was talking about she was trying to make mayonnaise with hard-boiled eggs, and I thought, how does that even turn out? There certainly wouldn't be actual emulsification, because emulsification can't happen with a cooked egg white.
So she was just wanting to make mayonnaise but have cooked eggs. She was worried about the raw egg.
She was worried about that. In Nourishing Traditions, which was published in, I believe, 1998, Sally does use raw eggs, and she'll be the first one to say that her book is not, up to date on all the current research, that there's much more, and she discourages the use of eggs raw, especially egg white raw, because of what we've already talked about. But I think that we can be confident that when the eggs are fertile, we don't need to be concerned about that.
Mm-hmm. So here's another segue into like mayonnaise. Like, is there a trick? Do you have a trick for making? Because my mayonnaise tends to be kind of soupy. Do you have like a trick to make mayonnaise more like mayonnaise-y?
Less liquid. So I think that even in a video that we have on our YouTube channel, it might have a little bit more liquid than it needs to have. I am now down to using 2 teaspoons per 3/4 to 1 cup of oil. 2 teaspoons or lemon juice. I typically want to use lemon juice or vinegar and a little bit of brine to culture the mayonnaise. But I now am just doing batches of 1.5 cups of oil or fat. And then I will use 1 tablespoon total of liquid. So less liquid and faster emulsification with the immersion blender. That's the best tool I've ever found for emulsifying mayonnaise and salad dressing. It works because it works so fast. It tends to make a thicker mayonnaise. And then, of course, refrigerate should get thicker as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, there's the recipe. There's the video with the mayo recipe, which is super easy to make, especially with an immersion blender.
Yeah. I used to do it in my Vitamix, and it takes a little bit longer because when you're using a blender or a Vitamix, you have to slowly pour the fat into the vessel, in this case, the blender container. When you use an immersion blender, you just put everything all in that one container. It takes maybe 1 minute to measure and put everything in, and it takes 20 minutes multiplication with that immersion blender, and voila, mayonnaise. Then all you have to do is clean up.
And same for salad dressing. Salad dressing is pretty much the same.
I'll have to do a video of building a salad dressing. That's something that has escaped my mind. I need to do that. I taught a quick class here once, in which I started with a basic salad dressing with olive oil and vinegars and spices, and I built it up. I kept adding components. And at any stage, you had salad dressing that was perfectly edible and delicious. But to build it all the way up to a beautiful creamy salad dressing that's kind of very much like a mayonnaise. I think that's a video I should do.
Yeah, that'd be good. And there's the link for our Caesar salad dressing. That's so good.
That's my favorite.
One of our favorites. We love it. We love it.
Yeah.
We make it a lot with the anchovies and.
Yep. The anchovies, and sometimes people ask if that doesn't make it taste fishy, but no, it doesn't. It adds this beautiful umami flavor. And if you let the anchovies sit with the lemon juice or vinegar just for a few minutes before you add everything else, and it really tones that down anyway. So it's not fishy at all. Yeah.
That's good. It is a very good. And a good way to get healthy fats in too.
Yeah, and they really are healthy fats. And I know we get asked, I'll throw this out there too, as kind of a question. We do get asked about the fats. We recommend saturated fats and animal fats in particular, like butter, ghee, lard, tallow, but also coconut oil and palm oil and good real olive oil. Please read the article on our blog about that. But for more information about why we recommend the animal fats and saturated fats in particular, Erin can link to a talk with Sally Morell that was this spring. It's a really good primer on why to avoid the seed oils and include the saturated fats instead, and the animal fats in particular. Yep. Okay.
Oh, I do love a pretty good. We do love a good olive oil. So.
Yeah, we really do. And my standby is the Kirkland brand at Costco, the organic. I find it very palatable and dependably good, and it's clean, and it is pure olive oil, at least at this point. So I'm trying to keep up with olive oil testing so that we can know what brands are good and what brands might be adulterated.
Yep. Okay, let's see. All right, so that's everything about eggs and mayonnaise. And okay, we had another question come in about some supplements. So why don't you recommend vitamin D supplementation?
Okay. Again, God puts everything together in a package, and everything within that package works synergistically. So anytime you take any singular nutrient, and supplement-wise, most of them are synthetic anyway, including most of the vitamin D supplements out there. But when you isolate just vitamin D and separate it in particular from vitamin A, true fully formed vitamin A, and even vitamin K, you have that can cause dysfunction within the body. So we always want to get our supplements, our nutrients from whole foods, not from isolated compounds. Now, even when people are testing for low vitamin D, the best way to get your vitamin D levels up are taking, say, liver or cod liver oil, lard, and we'll have a discussion at a later date about foods. I think that is a very important discussion to have. But regardless of that discussion, it cannot nullify the fact that lard from pasture-raised pigs is actually very, very high in vitamin D. But it's naturally occurring and with all of nutrients, all of the synergistic nutrients. So you don't want to overload on one, thinking you're doing a good thing, that you need more, and then the component that this needs to work synergistically within the body you're going to be out of balance. You want to keep everything whole. You can't fully utilize the vitamin D without the vitamin A anyway. So keep everything in balance. If your body is needing more vitamin D, it's probably also needing more vitamin A. And you hear me say this a lot, we don't get vitamin A from a carrot. We get true fully formed vitamin A from animal foods only, and that works synergistically with the vitamin D that also should be found in animal foods. And we can't really get it elsewhere. Even sometimes people will bring up things like, I'm trying to think, like NATO or something like that. But that is usually used, if you want to call it animal form. It's microbial activity in order to produce more vitamin D or vitamin this or whatever. So you're always wanting to look for an animal source for those vitamins, and you want them in the whole package. Don't separate them. The only time that I personally ever recommend an isolated nutrient would be when you have an acute illness, such as in our respiratory protocol that we put out a couple of years ago for one particular respiratory ailment, in which case we do temporarily up isolated vitamin C, or you can do vitamin C bombs or vitamin C from camu camu, acerola cherry, rose hips, that kind of thing. But when we have an acute illness going on in our house, we'll use liposomal vitamin C. I don't recommend it for everyday usage, only in the case of an acute illness. So otherwise, let's keep it whole the way God gave it to us.
So why would you recommend C every day?
I don't recommend vitamin C every day, but you can supplement with food that is high in vitamin C. And again, we need to put a recipe up. I've been playing around with it again, whereby you take superfruits like acerola cherry, rose hips, and you can take those powdered forms, dried, organic, non-irradiated, not processed food powders, and mix them with raw honey, maybe some coconut oil. So you can make little balls, and then you can take that as your vitamin C supplement instead of taking isolated or manufactured vitamin C. Vitamin C most of the vitamin C on the are, and it can cause cancer. We don't want to be touching that kind of stuff. So real food, whole food, for our nutrients, almost there are few exceptions. Okay.
Trying to find, this is the one that I take. It's a powder, and I'll add it to a little bit of water.
Is it Radiant C?
It is Health Force, Truly Natural Vitamin C, and it's camu.
Yeah.
And it's just a powder. It's acerola, camu and amla.
Yeah. And amla. Yeah, that's another good source. So it's again, it's not isolated. It's the food instead of the isolated nutrient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's literally just the berries dried and all ground up. So yeah.
So that's fine, and that's good. So otherwise, with vitamin D, go back to the fermented cod liver oil. That's our best recommendation, and it's the one that I take every single day. So from Green Pasture Products, and of course we have the link. You get a 10% discount if you use GGT10. Am I right?
It is. I think it did just change. I think now it's backwards. It's 10 GGT now.
Okay.
They had us change it. So now it is, I believe, let me double check. I believe it's 10 GGT. I had to change one of them recently, and I think that was the one.
Okay. And I actually am about to order more myself. I'm pretty low. Yeah, good stuff. I remember that years ago there was a holistic doctor that I was friends with, Dr. Ron Schmid. He was a big supporter of the Weston A. Price Foundation, frequent speaker, and he's actually the one who introduced me to the Weston A. Price Foundation and the research of Dr. Price. He had so much good information to share and a very good teacher. However, when the Green Pasture product came out, many of us were using cod liver oil pasture products, and we learned that most of the cod liver oil, and this includes fish oil products on the market, are highly adulterated, highly processed, and should never be consumed. So you want a whole cod liver oil. Excuse me while I open the door to let the dog in. There are very few brands out there that are not highly processed products. And then eventually the company went to fermenting the cod livers in order to produce the cod liver oil. And we're going to interview Dave Wetzel about that here soon, so he can explain the process. But fermenting cod liver oil, or rather the cod livers, is a way that people in Scandinavia have used for 1,000 years, maybe, to obtain the oil from the cod livers. They would pack wooden barrels with cod livers after their fishing expeditions and allow them to naturally ferment. The oil would separate from the livers, and they would take the top oil for themselves, and the bottom oil they would use as lamp oil. Well, it turns out with modern technology that, in fact, when you ferment cod liver, it produces an explosion of nutrients, and in particular, a very broad spectrum of vitamin D. So not just D1, D2, D3, but vitamin D, like other vitamins, is one of an entire spectrum. It's not one isolated, every molecule looks exactly the same. Fermenting those cod livers creates this really broad spectrum, high dose of vitamin D, but it maintains the integrity of the proper ratio with vitamin A. So once we all started taking that, I say we all because really almost everybody I knew within that community was taking that product and really benefiting from it. But sometimes people didn't do well with it, and so they would switch to maybe Premier or Rosetta. I think there's one other brand out there that's good, but most of us were still doing the fermented. However, Dr. Schmid, who'd had heart problems in the past, and I'm not even going to speak to some of the other things that I was aware of, but he started recommending taking a much higher dose, and he himself was taking as much as 1/4 cup a day.
Oh, wow.
He was saying 3 to 4 tablespoons. Well, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. Controversy that someone who is a researcher and a nutritionist, Dr. Kayla Daniel, came out and she wanted to have the cod liver oil tested because she was asserting that it was causing people to be sick. There was a big controversy, and then she and her friend, she had a study done by an unnamed, as of yet still unnamed laboratory. They provided her their results. She read the results without the proper knowledge or credentials to understand what the test results actually meant. And so she went in with a premise that this fermented cod liver oil could make you sick, could kill you even. And she and her friends even asserted that it caused the death of 2 of my dear friends, as well as Dr. Ron Schmid. Well, the foundation then hit those, as well as 2 others that were not fermented but were highly recommended by this other group. They were all three tested, and those test results are on the Weston A. Price Foundation website. They're very revealing. They were tested by three separate world-renowned labs. The results were looked at by people who actually have credentials in understanding lipids. And in fact, the fermented cod liver oil passed every test with flying colors and beyond, because you find all this amazing explosion of nutrients in the fermented, whereas in the others, they tested good, but they didn't have the same vitamin D levels. And they actually had markers for rancidity, which the fermented did not have. Well, Dr. Ron Schmid did die not too long after this. He died, I believe, of a heart attack, if I remember correctly. And his group of friends who had come out against the fermented cod liver oil and had made all kinds of terrible assertions against the foundation, and Sally in particular, things they never should have said, and things that had no basis. They said, well, the cod liver oil, the fermented cod liver oil is what killed Dr. Schmid. And we're saying, no, he was taking way more. We recommend 1, maybe 2 teaspoons a day. He was taking 3 or 4 tablespoons a day. Not good. And then the claim that my 2 friends, one of whom, well, they were both dear friends. I'll just say that. They didn't use the fermented cod liver oil anyway. One died of a particularly aggressive form of breast cancer, which was linked to fertility drugs, which she had taken 13, 14 years before. And the other had a brain tumor. She had a brain tumor. She did live worked very close to high power lines and cell towers. Maybe that had something to do with it. Simply don't know. But the fact is that this group of people who was saying, don't take the fermented cod liver oil, it will kill you, it will make you sick, it'll do this or that. Bogus, lies. They said things that never should have been said, and definitely not only were not proven, but were not provable. And these people weren't taking it anyway. So always question everything is my motto. It doesn't matter whether we're talking nutrition, politics, religion, question everything. Mm-hmm. So I stand by the fermented cod liver oil.
Yep, and we need to take it every day.
Yep, every day. I need to go downstairs and take mine before I step out the door. Okay.
Let's see what else. Now, what about there's a lot of vitamin D supplements are put together with K. What is vitamin K? You're supposed to take K with D?
No, vitamin K should be just naturally with D anyway. Again, it's the package. Yeah. So don't get isolated. And some people might think, okay, well, maybe then if I take a vitamin D and a vitamin K and a vitamin A supplement, then it'll be fine. No, don't do that. You're talking about highly processed, possibly fake or at least denatured, and you're still missing the other components. Just take the food. Just eat the food.
So where else would you get the vitamin A and the D and the K? What other foods besides cod livers?
Natto is one source for all three. Pastured eggs, definitely. Again, lard, any animal products, especially that would involve the fat and the liver. I have to think about where else we find vitamin K. But they come together. I'm just checking quickly. And again, just like with vitamin D, there are different forms of vitamin K too. There's K2, K3, and I think there's K4. But always animal foods, liver, pastured dairy. And anytime you take dairy and you ferment it or culture it as in an aged cheese, you're going to get more benefit that way from all three of these fat soluble vitamins that we're talking about. And by the way, I'll mention really quickly as well that we talk some about minerals as well, but mineral absorption is dependent upon vitamins, particularly the fat soluble activator vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin K. So we can't even absorb minerals. The package, is it getting redundant? Did you get tired of hearing it? Take the whole package. Vitamin K is critical to blood clotting. And so for someone who has thin blood or blood clotting issues, they should really be eating animal fats. And pastured animals in particular, you'll get some benefit from conventional if that's all that you can do. That's better than nothing, but it really should be pastured animal products, and then you'll get a lot of benefit. And vitamin K, by the way, is also critical to heart health. So, so some of the foods, let me see what else that I might. Vitamin K will reduce your chance of heart attack. Let me see. I always say natto from the fermented soybean products. And that is not something that I particularly enjoy. Erin, do you like natto?
I don't know. I don't know that I've had it. Is it like a sauce or what is it?
It's soybeans that have been cultured and fermented for a fairly lengthy period of time, and it really looks like slimy soybeans. It looks disgusting. It actually tastes rather good, and you don't need a lot of it. It's an Asian food. Let me find some other sources. Sun-dried tomatoes, sure, but you're going to get some from that. But your animal foods are always going to be your best bet. And I'm not finding more here.
Here we have a question. If I have a blood clotting disease, APS, should I avoid vitamin K in food or supplements? I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place with that decision.
So if you have a blood clotting disorder wherein your blood clots more than it should, I don't avoid these things, maybe take less, but the one important and critical factor is avoid all fried foods, and especially seed oils. Fried foods and seed oils, and any processed carbohydrates as well, but the fried foods will absolutely increase your clotting in an unhealthy way. So it's more important to avoid foods that are detrimental rather than avoiding foods that otherwise are good. And here's one aspect of that also, is that vitamin K in particular, but not exclusively, your body knows when enough is enough. So your body isn't going to say you have this blood clotting disorder, you have a tendency to clot more than you should, which is a serious issue. If you have a diet that is fairly high in vitamin K, this blood clotting factor, your body doesn't just overuse the vitamin K and cause clots. This is important to understand. More vitamin K in your diet is not going to cause more blood clotting. Your body simply uses the vitamin K in other ways, or sequesters it away or eliminates it. It's not going to overuse a natural component of food that is beneficial and then cause problems. So when you have this kind of a problem, it is important to eliminate the things, obviously, that exacerbate it, like fried foods, like processed carbohydrates, but especially fried foods and the industrialized seed oils. Don't be afraid of the natural things. And I'm not suggesting that you should take, well, again, like fermented cod liver oil, which does have vitamin K. Don't overuse it. Don't take too much. But your body is intelligent. And if you're putting into it things that belong there, it will utilize those things as well as it can and eliminate the excess. I'll try to find an article that I read 2 years ago, and we'll see if we can find it and post it. But I read an article probably on the Weston A. Price Foundation website about this very thing, and I've seen it other places as well. So too much vitamin K is not going to mean that your blood clotting disorder is going to be a larger problem. Now, having said that, you need to give the disclaimer that we're not medical doctors. We're not even bona fide medical researchers. I get my hands on everything I can and read it to understand it. But I also avoid allopathic medical doctors like the plague, unless there's an emergency situation. So they're trained with chemicals. They're not trained in nutrition, literally. They have a basic understanding of macro and micronutrients, but they're not trained in nutrition. And so an allopathic doctor, which is a traditional now, what most people use as a doctor, they are trained in pharmaceutical and surgical and procedural interventions. And I've heard, actually, there's a Tucker Carlson interview I'm listening to currently. I haven't been able to finish it this week. That he's interviewing the authors, a brother-sister duo, and we'll post that interview because it's really good. They expound upon this, that the medical doctors today are not trained in nutrition at all. They are in fact trained in how to use drugs to treat symptoms and manage symptoms. They are not trained in getting to the root cause. And they are not trained in how to help the body correct itself. It's all about pills. And I've known this for years. It's been quite clear. There's been a lot written and said about it. It's not just me spouting this off. But this interview is absolutely excellent. And I've noticed for years and years. And that is, if you go to some place like, say, Hershey Medical Center, where I've gone many times to visit people, look at the name on the side of the buildings. You've got pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies on the sides of those buildings. It really is all about making money for those companies. It's not about understanding human health and how to overcome illness and disease naturally by understanding what's wrong and helping the body to come. So I'm going off on a tangent that just we're not medical doctors.
Casey Kitchens, right?
What?
With Dr. Casey Kitchens.
Let me see. I can
sure,
look it up.
I
Really,
keep seeing it.
it sounds familiar, and it's a brother sister. Really good interview. There are a couple of other ones also along the same lines, but actually Hillsdale College. I've used Hillsdale College. Aaron has taken a couple of courses over the years. I have used Hillsdale for, maybe we got to get rid of this, for government, civics, literature, that kind of thing for my kids as we've homeschooled over the years. And Hillsdale College now has a course on how the pharmaceutical companies in America are making people sick and profiting off of your sickness. And all of that stuff that we're talking about, that's actually a course I'm going to have our youngest take this year. Big Pharma is fooling you again, and you don't even know it. That is, are you putting it up for us? You got it. You got it. Definitely encourage you guys to watch that. A lot of people can't stand Tucker Carlson. I've seen him evolve over the years, and I have nothing but respect now. Not that I have always, but now definitely. So watch that interview. But that's why I say, yeah, we're not a doctor. Neither of us are doctors. But I don't care. I do listen to a few doctors. I do respect a few doctors, but not a lot. So for me, it doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah, Tambray says about learning in massage school that doctors get maybe 8 hours. It's not even that. It's not even that. I have been told by doctors that they got 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours of nutritional instruction, and none of it in that amount of time anyway. Okay. So that disclosure is important. We don't ask you to take our word for anything. What Erin and I wish to do is to open your minds to possibilities, to think for yourselves, to find answers, not by watching a show or reading an article. For instance, I was looking up other information on something else this afternoon for something I'm writing about. And I'm looking up one particular person and one particular topic. And for every 2 or 3 articles or that person in that topic, I get 2 or 3 others that are counteracting what that person is saying, because they don't want you to know the truth. Okay, I think we have time for one more question before we need to close for the day.
Let me see. We had, okay. This one, hopefully this won't open a huge can of worms, but that you often mention that you don't recommend canning. Can you please explain why?
That's a timely question. And it's a question that I got in some trouble with recently when I was presenting at an event. So there are many ways, or several key ways in which people have preserved food over the thousands of years, over the millennia, none of which included canning until about 140 years ago, I think. People have dehydrated, whether in the sun, or now we have things like freeze dryers and electric dehydrators, wind dehydration. Fermenting is my favorite. Also just freezing, of course that's not been a millennia old means other than in very cold climates. But I say that to say that there are other means of preserving foods that are age old: salt curing, sugar curing, smoking, root cellaring, on and on. Canning came onto the horizon in the mid to late 1800s. And from that point on, we started to see the destruction of nutrients bringing on illnesses, such as scurvy, for instance. So it used to be that on sailing ships, Captain Cook, quite literally, you're probably familiar with Captain Cook from history, sailors would be loaded up, ships would be loaded with sauerkraut and other fermented foods to carry them across the oceans on their voyages. Unbeknownst to them, sauerkraut just being a very popular and easy to talk about example, the fermentation of cabbage to produce sauerkraut actually also provides an explosion of nutrients, just like within fermenting cod liver oil or fermenting cod livers. Anytime you ferment a food, it creates an explosion of nutrients in addition to preserving that food. So it's a win-win. Now, when we're talking about preserving foods today, I want to say that if you are preserving your food like this. Right before I came upstairs, I ran outside and grabbed a fresh cucumber from one of my plants. I love garlic dill pickles, so that's going to go into a pickle. Anyway, once canning came onto the horizon, everything changed. Not just how food was preserved, but the destruction ensued. So when the ships stopped carrying sauerkraut, but instead were carrying canned vegetables, sailors were getting sick with scurvy. When canning came onto the horizon and came into the villages and towns, people began to experience many different illnesses. Why? Not because of botulism or other things, but because nutritional value is greatly diminished in the canning process. So why don't we recommend canning? It is that exactly. So I ask, are you canning for the preservation of food so you can put food in your bellies and not be hungry? Or are you canning because you want to preserve nutrient quality so that your family can be healthy and remain healthy and rebuild and maintain? If you're preserving food for the right reason, which is more than just filling your belly and staving hunger, you're not going to want to can. Now, water bath canning does diminish a great amount of nutrients. However, if you're going to can something, water bath can, say, tomatoes for tomato sauce. But when you pressure can, you totally destroy the nutrients and you denature the protein in that food. So if you're canning for food preservation, at least don't pressure can. This is where I got into trouble because I was speaking on, I gave a talk, a survey of home preservation methods, and that's actually something Erin and I talked about doing as a live show, and I think we can do that. I was giving a presentation at a homesteading event, a very large homesteading event in Ohio a couple of months ago. One of the sponsors of that event is a canning company. They sell in particular pressure canners. So I had quite a group of people listening to my talk, very interested and engaged, lots of good questions. The next day, there was a demo and a talk on preserving via canning. And this company that was a sponsor of the event had hired a woman who'd authored a book on canning. And apparently a lot of the people who were at my talk were at her talk. And they had lots of questions for her that she could answer. And they weren't real positive. That man, the owner of the company, came to me that day and he was angry. I've never had anybody be really angry. Never had anybody come to me and be angry about something that I talked about. He was mad. He wanted to know, where do you get the information? How do you get off saying that blah, 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 blah? Pressure canning is definitely not the way to go. It will destroy most of the nutrients. And besides that, and diminish the quality of the food anyway. So only water bath can a few things, because if you're going to cook it to death anyway, like with tomato sauce, go ahead and water bath can your tomatoes. But otherwise, ferment, dehydrate, preserve in oil, like sun-dried tomatoes and olive oil, and then you can do whatever you want with them later. They make wonderful sauces. But don't high pressure can, and only water bath can a few things. I've gone on and on. I've covered that fairly well and in an understandable way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's see real quick. It looks like Carmen is having an issue with shingles and an infection. So she was prescribed, I'm not sure how to say that, valaciclovir. but not using it. So what would be something to help with the infection and the shingles?
Erin, you know the answer to that one, don't you?
Monolauric acid?
Yes, internally monolauric acid, brine from sauerkraut or pickles, another ferment internally, and externally
My magic powder.
magic powder or just clay to draw it out. Yeah. And shingles has become a real serious problem in about the last 10, 12 years with the advent of the chicken pox thing. I'm not going to say that it starts with a V, because now there's not naturally or very little naturally occurring contaminant or contagion, I'll say that, causing natural chicken pox. And so what has happened instead is we have shingles everywhere. And one of our kids actually developed shingles, which baffled me because she'd never had that V thing and she had had chicken pox. And I studied and learned, thank you, bentonite clay, Carmen. Yes, that's exactly what I was going for. And I used that and oatmeal ground up and made into a slurry on her back. I think it was on her back or her belly and running up. I remember it going up her neck and into her face. But that was when I learned about the prevalence or lack of prevalence of naturally occurring chicken pox, which was then encouraging shingles, and also with Lyme disease, that it weakens your immune system, or your immune system is so busy fighting Lyme disease that it's susceptible to other problems. A common thing with Lyme disease. So I understand that now. I've learned a lot through experience. But the way that I treated her was monolauric acid, liposomal vitamin C, pickle juice or sauerkraut juice, and then topically I would mix up a spray of oatmeal and bentonite clay, and I coat it on her oil pretty quickly and uneventfully.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we just used the bentonite clay this weekend for sister-in-law had a really bad tooth infection, like around her gums, and this whole area was swollen, and her gums were just so inflamed, and it was really painful. And I was like, oh, let's put some bentonite clay on it. And so we made her a nice and thick paste with the bentonite clay, and she did that for a couple of days. Packed it into her gums, like all around her gums, and then would put it on the outside of her cheek. And it didn't take very long, only probably 4 days, doing that once or twice a day. And
yeah, we didn't give her anything internally. It was just that. I don't think
you did give her some. You did give her some monolauric acid pellets.
Okay, and I gave her some of the mouth irrigant that I used and that Dad had used 2 years ago. So we did do that as well. But I think that clay, that's why I was sure you would think of that right away. But bentonite clay is a wonderful thing. And I hope you get over that really quickly. So thank you, Carmen. Okay. As usual, our time has gone very quickly, and I need to go pick up number 9 child from her nanny job. So we'll sign off for now, but we have some neat things coming up. I'm really excited about interviewing my friend Barbara Getches in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. She's a homeopathic physician. She's and she's helped us out over the years several times, but she's just a wealth of knowledge. So I'm looking forward to that. We will do the survey of home preservation methods. I have to figure out with Erin how to get all of my slides. We'll do that. We've got some other interviews. Actually, Aaron Sayer G. He and I talked back in June, and he's eager to come on. So we've got to get that set up. We've got some neat things coming up. Interesting people. As always, we're grateful for you to tune in. We welcome your questions and we love your support. By the way, we have a little button for buy us a glass of milk, and that's a way to contribute and help us to cover our expenses here. And we welcome also for you to visit our website and look at our resource list. Most, but not all, are affiliate links, but we only put things up there that we really believe in, including monolauric acid, bentonite clay in the form of Sone number 7. I believe we've got that up, the liposomal vitamin C, and definitely the Green Pasture product fermented cod liver oil, amongst others. Only things that we really believe will help you. So tune back in next week at 3:00, and we just look forward to being together.
It's in Orlando.
It's the Weston A. Price Foundation conference is now in Orlando. It is not in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We will also put up a link for that. And I was meaning to say something about the foundation and membership. Membership of the Weston A. Price Foundation is only $40 a year. It has never gone up. It provides you the journal, which I have many copies up on my shelf. Here's one from the summer of the V issue, good issue in 2015. But the journals come out quarterly. We also have an annually updated shopping guide and lots of other wonderful resources, including a members-only Facebook page. We're hoping for 25,000 members this year because it's our 25th year. So by the time we hit our conference in October, third weekend of October, we hope to be up at 25,000. So if you're not a member yet, as Tambray says, it's $40 well spent. Definitely consider becoming a member. It helps the foundation to continue to do good work. And even though you're God's good, most of what I've learned, a very large percentage, has come through my involvement with the Weston A. Price Foundation, wholeheartedly and passionately in their vision and their mission. So just want to encourage that membership as well. All righty, that's it. And we look forward to being together again next week. Until then, everybody have a great week. And never forget where our good gifts come from, where our help and our comfort comes from, and to whom we should always be looking every day of our lives for every blessing, every need. And that is God and Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.
See you next time.